Hello, everybody. Welcome to Findmypast Fridays Live. My name is Liam from the social media team here at Findmypast, and as always, it is my pleasure to be here with you for another Friday afternoon talking about genealogy, history, Findmypast, and so much more. As always, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, how the weather's looking. You know, we love a weather report here on Fridays Live. And yeah, just let us know how your week's been, how you're getting on. We do have Ellie in the comments today as well, so be sure to say hello to Ellie as well for giving up her time on last thing of the week to be here with us all again on Friday. Have a look at who we have joined. We have Roz from Chile, Massachusetts. We have got Jean from Dull, Lancashire, Police and Crime Commissioner. David Downing coming in on YouTube from a lovely sunny day in Somerset. Nice to hear. The sun was out in Dundee earlier on today, but it's gone a little bit cloudy now, unfortunately, just in time for the weekend. And I'm in Glasgow over the weekend as well, so it is sure to be pouring with rain in Glasgow, I would be safe to say as well. Who else do we have? Karen from dull but quite mild Enfield, North London. See, it's dull here, as I say, but my computer's telling me it's 9 degrees at the moment, so not too bad really for middle of February. Not too bad really. Andrew, much in such the same, overcast and 11 degrees in Lancashire. Unfortunately, I have a cold. Unfortunately, Andrew, hope that shifts for you over the weekend as well. I know it's kind of that time of year. I know a few of us in our team have been a bit under the weather this week as well. So it's definitely that time of year where you kind of get just whatever's going around, really, colds and all sorts. So as I say, hope that shifts for you and you can enjoy your weekend regardless. Gillian joining Ellie in Edinburgh. Sunny but chilly in Edinburgh today. Very nice, as I say. I don't mind those kind of days when it's sunny, but it's a little bit cold, maybe a little bit crisp, but sun is the main thing. You get a little bit of winter sun, I think you would call it. As I say, as long as you get the temperature, as long as you get, the sun in the sky, the temperature doesn't always feel so bad. It's better being sunny but a bit chilly than when it's just grey and cloudy and a bit chilly as well. So I feel like overcast is the kind of recurrent theme for the weather across the UK here today. Daphne from an overcast Somerset. Something a bit different. Rita is expecting snow in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So we've only really had snow once or twice, I think, over winter this year. So not too bad, really. But as I say, I know the kind of that part of America can get it quite bad, Rita. So hope you're all staying safe as well. Gina from a sunny Lincolnshire. We've got Linda, a bit cold and dank, maybe damp here in North Ireland, but not raining. Yay, exactly. As I say, as long as it's dry, that's about all you can ask for this time of year, really, isn't it? That it's dry. That's the main thing, as I say. And we've got my friend from across the water, not New Jersey, but across the River Tay, that water, not the ocean. So Anya's made it this week. Very nice to have you here as well. Anya, always good to see you. Sorry to hear about the health issues. Hope you're on the mend as well, and hope you are well yourself as well. As I say, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everybody for joining us as well. And Rita as well, saying that Friday lives are the best day of my week. Same, Rita, whether I'm the one hosting or I just get to chill and enjoy it last thing on a Friday. It's a really nice end to the week. A little bit different sometimes when you're hosting it. You do have that sort of 3:30 panic where you remember that you're live in half an hour, but you'll make it all worth it. It is very nice to be here with you all again. And Jean, just correcting maybe an autocorrect error there. Not Lancashire Police and Crime Commissioner, just to say Lanc. So I did wonder, I started reading that comment. Sometimes I go into a bit autopilot when I'm reading a comment. I don't really think about what's next. So I did say the Lancashire Police and Crime Commissioner, but I wasn't entirely sure what that meant. So thank you, Jean. As I say, maybe just a wee autocorrect. I know it kind of has a mind of its own sometimes. You start typing and it just, next thing you know, it's giving you a full sentence that you did not mean to say. So as I say, thank you for clearing it up, because I did read it out loud still. So as I say, you need to be careful as to what I'm reading out here. That wasn't too bad. We do have a question of the week, as always. I thought we'd just have a little bit of a chat about how your year is going so far. As I say, it's the 16th of February already. We're halfway through the second month of 2024. So I thought I'd ask, how is your research in 2024 going so far? What have you found? Any challenges, any brick walls? Have you broken any brick walls? Any really good discoveries? New record sets you've been using? whatever is going on in your 2024 research world, let us know in the comments. We can have a little bit of a chat, as I say, see how your research in 2024 is going. And we will, as always, come back later in the week not later in the week, it's Friday afternoon, later in the session, and have a few answers to the question of the week. And we can, as I say, get together, have a chat, maybe even help each other out as well. If you are having brick walls, let us know the areas, the record sets, and I'm sure, not volunteer myself, but maybe someone in the comments can have a few hints and tips for you, and we can see, as I say, just how everyone's getting on. It's the year is flying in, I feel. I think it has been a quick start to the year, I would say. As I say, it's quite scary to think that it's the 16th of February already. So, as I say, hopefully people are getting going with the research. I know this is kind of the perfect time of year, as we always say, to get going in the research as well. So, as I say, let us know how you're getting on. If you need any help as well, pop in the comments. We've also, of course, got the Findmypast Family History Forum as well. If many of you aren't in there, a perfect place to help with your brick walls, any challenges you are facing as well. So yeah, let us know, and we will come back later in this session and discuss some answers as well. So we do have some new records to discuss as well. That is, of course, why we are here. So we'll have a look at them. And then we do have a special guest joining us in a few minutes, about 20 minutes or so maybe. We've got a special guest joining us to discuss some lovely new features on Findmypast, which is always nice. Some of you might have clocked the earphone wire as well, which usually means there's a special guest on, because the first time I had a special guest, I didn't have the wire, and because I use a microphone, it got quite a bad echo. So as I say, if you ever see me with the earphones in, that can be a bit of a spoiler alert, and let you know that a special guest is on their way. But yes, new records to discuss this week. So I don't have any slides. Some people in the team will be glad to know, because I am notoriously bad for just not renaming my spreadsheet, my PowerPoint file. So whenever I do slides for new records, it always has the same name, which is 1507 records. So I've been using the same template since the 15th of July, and I think that is probably 15th of July 2022, I would hazard a guess. I don't even think it's last year. So as I say, I think I'm clogging up the system with all my 1507 records PowerPoint. So no slides today, as I say, one less on the list for the team to clear out when we do our admin work. But we do have new records all the same. So what have we got? It's a big week for Yorkshire this week, especially Leeds. The new updates come for 13,000 new Roman Catholic records from St Mary's Batley in Leeds. 13,000 new records. They include 8,800 new baptisms, 3,000 new marriages, and 1,400 new burials. They are all covering the years 1853 to 1914. All three record sets are the same, and as I say, all from St Mary's Batley in Leeds. So if that rings a bell for you, if you know you have ancestors in that area, perfect time to have a look and get that research done, and pop to the blog that Ellie has posted in the chat as well for some more information on there and what you can expect to find. But always very typical when we get the new parish records. As I say, they're kind of my favorite ones to do sometimes, the new parish records, when I do a Fridays Live, because they're always just so easy. It is always nice having something to kind of get stuck into and have a proper dig through. But presenting wise, sometimes it's nice just being able to say, you know what's on a baptism, you know what's on a marriage, you know what's on a burial. They're all much and such the same. So it's as I say, always quite an easy one, quite a nice one there as well. So as a big week for Leeds, in particular, St Mary's Batley Leeds. And keeping in the big week for Yorkshire theme, we also have one new newspaper title this week. That is the Ripon Gazette. I realised before, I always thought it was just Ripon. Something, I think it's just these Friday Live niggles that come into my head. Started thinking that maybe it was Ripon because it's only one P, but Ripon Gazette. I'm going for Ripon Gazette. We have the Ripon Gazette. We've got a few years added. We have got from 1870 to 1900. Then we also have 1910, 1950, and 1956 added to the Ripon Gazette, and that is in Yorkshire as well. So as I say, big week for Yorkshire. If you do have Yorkshire ancestors, Leeds in particular ancestors, a very good week indeed, and you'll see more about that on the blog again. We also have a whole host of updates to existing titles as well. This was another very, very long list. So please do head to the blog for the full list, because I would be here well past when our guest is due to come on if I was to read the whole list. But we have got places like the Ballymena Weekly Telegraph. We have got the Biggleswade Chronicle. Biggleswade, I think, is one of my favourite place names. I think that newspaper has come up before. I think we've added that one quite recently as well, maybe added new pages to that. And I think Biggleswade is one of my sort of favourite place names. I think it's one of those places that if I mentioned to one of our American colleagues like Jen, she might think I'm having her on, because Biggleswade, I don't know, something about it I've always just liked. We have also got things like the Motherwell Times. A couple of Maidstone titles have been updated, a couple of Northampton titles have been updated, and a good host of years as well, some earlier ones, some more recent ones as well. So a good mix of titles in there. But as I say, it was a very, very long list this week. So definitely head to the blog and get a full breakdown of the titles that have been updated and also the years that have been updated as well. And keep newspapers in mind as well, because another teaser, I know Ellie said that I like a teaser. I do like a teaser. I like keeping people hooked in. So we are going to talk more about newspapers later on as well. So keep newspapers in mind as well. Have a look at the comments as well. Ness asking about some of the bigger newspapers. Yes, some of like the big national ones, like the News of the World, for example. As some of you know, I did used to work in the customer support team at Findmypast, so a lot of people would get in touch with us suggesting newspapers or asking if one would ever be added. And the News of the World was one that came up quite a lot. I don't think we have any of the News of the World at the moment. Maybe Ellie can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure, putting Ellie on the spot again here, I'm sure Ellie will be more than happy to pass that on to the team and see if that is one that we can do in the future. Sometimes the big national ones can be a bit trickier than sort of local, more regional titles. But as I say, I'm sure Ellie can pass that on my behalf, or I can do it after the session and we can see if that is possible. Another good newspaper tidbit here. Kim's second great-grandfather printed the Bramley Advertiser newspaper in Leeds. I haven't found a surviving copy, though. He was called William Witts. So I will keep adding to keep adding to Ellie's assignments for this afternoon. But if you can maybe take a quick note of that one as well for us, Ellie, and see if there's anything we can do for the Bramley Advertiser as well. That'd be really cool, especially being the printer. If you could find one that his name was maybe mentioned and his name was printed on, that would be especially cool as well. Thank you very much, Ellie. I can see you're passing that on as well. And Daphne, this is some of my favorite types of comments as well. Big shout out to Joanna of customer support, who pointed me in the right direction when looking for an entry in the newspaper. Very successful. Love to hear it. As I say, I used to work in the customer support team, so I know that can be some of my favorite contacts sometimes, were those ones when you're trying to find a particular entry and you and the customer are going back and forth and trying to find out where it is, what newspaper it would have been, and all sorts of things. And I know all the team are brilliant, but Joanna in particular, she's also a big fan of those ones when you can get stuck into something like that. So very glad to hear that you and Joanna made it in the end, Daphne. We'll be sure to pass that on to Joanna as well. And yeah, thank you very much for the shout out. As I say, love those kind of comments as well, hearing success stories, but especially when you've had the help of the wonderful customer support team at Findmypast as well. Really, really nice to hear. Some people saying sound issues, but Jean saying that had to come back out and come back in. So let me know if things do hit the proverbial fan, then do let me know. But as I say, maybe follow Jean's lead and just quick refresh, close it and come back, and hopefully you will be able to hear and see me. So we will do some question of the week answers before our lovely special guest comes in. If you are late joining us, quick recap. Question is just, how is your research in 2024 going so far? How are you getting on? What have you found? Where's your successes? Where are your challenges? Are you facing any brick walls? Have you smashed any brick walls? As a general chat, let us know how you are getting on. We can help each other. We can inspire each other as well and see how we are all getting on in 2024 so far. So Do, 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 do. Robin was very quick off the mark with her answer. She is having an extremely well start to 2024. She discovered a whole new branch to my extended family in Australia. Love to hear that as well, Robin. A whole new branch is exactly how you want to start your year of researching as well. So, especially Australia as well, getting a new area to research, getting stuck into that side of the family as well. So, very, very cool. Anya has been working on DNA matches and managed to work out a few of my Welsh cousins this week. So very nice, something a little bit different as well, doing the DNA side of things as well. So that is another good one too, and using something a little bit different as well in the DNA, and finding cousins as well is another nice one, another nice branch of the family to be working on. This early days, not meant to have favorites, but this might be one of my favorites. I will say straight off the bat that James has confirmed that Emma Bunton, aka Baby Spice, of the Spice Girls, in case anyone is not familiar. Surely everyone's familiar with the Spice Girls, but Emma Bunton is actually James's fourth cousin, once removed, found our most recent ancestor. That is one, as I say, one of my favorite comments from this one so far. Maybe one of my favorite ones. When I started doing Fridays Live, I never thought that in February 2024, I would be talking about Emma Bunton, Baby Spice, and the Spice Girls. So, as I say, you never know what's going to come up in family history and on a Find My Past Fridays Live as well. As I say, absolutely love that, James. Great stuff. What else have we got? I really like this one as well from Andrew. For the last 2 weeks, I've been distracted by research into our wall memorial. A Tudor mansion donated to the town and dedicated 100 years ago. Lots of newspapers. Brilliant. Love to hear that. And especially getting distracted. I love a distraction. We always talk about the rabbit holes, but that's a really good rabbit hole, I will say. Getting into a war memorial and something a little bit different as well. Something I hear a lot about people doing. I've never done it myself. I'm always focused on research for work or research for my own family. So getting stuck into something like that, and as I always say, it can kind of open new doors. I think sometimes doing something like that, it opens record sets you may not have used, or newspapers you may not have seen, or just anything like that. And especially newspapers as well. Really good to hear that they have been of use. And definitely, Andrew, pay attention when our special guest is on, because they have something that might help you do things like that, perhaps. So definitely pay attention when our special guest is on. What else have we got? Kim has been tracing lines forward to the present day, as I think I've exhausted records going back. I have a second great-granddaughter of a great-grand-aunt contacted me recently also. So that's, again, a different type of research. As I say, so much of family history is working back in time that sometimes you forget about coming back down the line. As you say, I've got so many branches that go up and then along, but they don't always come back down again. So I really like that, especially having that connection with the great granddaughter of a great grand aunt being in touch as well. Always nice to hear people are being in touch with each other when you get found through doing your family history research as well. And yeah, as I say, it's just something, again, a little bit different, not going back the way, but coming forward the way as well. Can't always be easy, not always easy, I should say. But again, very rewarding when you get that personal connection with someone as well. Gillian is not going too bad. Scottish records are easy enough to go through. English and Welsh records, some stumbling blocks, and a few people that just don't want to be found at all. We've all got those kind of ancestors, Gillian, who, like you say, no matter how hard you try, they've done their best just not to be found. And I think it's interesting to say about Scottish records being easy enough to go through in English and Welsh, facing some stumbling blocks. I think a lot of people would feel the opposite about that. Sometimes people you speak to say that the English research, for example, is quite easy. And then when you come north of the border or even into Wales, I know that can be quite tricky as well. Ellie will be testament to that as well. But as I say, I think I've heard a lot of people say the opposite. So nice to hear that us in Scotland have been giving you an easy time as well, Gillian. So many answers. Let's have a look. Another cool one here in the form of visiting cemeteries. Beth has been making progress on some DNA links and how I am related to them. Also busy visiting cemeteries and always keeping an eye out for those war memorials that we spoke about earlier as well. So I think that's a cool thing about DNA sometimes, is that you obviously get the connection. You have someone who you share DNA with, but then working out how you are actually related to them can be the sort of other element to that. And it's as again, not always easy. I keep wanting to say can't always be easy. I don't think that makes sense. Not always easy, but working out that relation, having that connection, like I said before, is special. And especially visiting the cemeteries as well is another great way to spend your time, and gives you another sort of nice connection to your research as well. Not just having the parish burial, for example, but being able to see the headstone and actually visit that place as well. And those war memorials, keeping an eye out for them and opening new avenues through them too. We will do a couple more before the guest is here. Janet has also been sidetracked. We love our rabbit hole. You don't need to tell us, Janet. By a carte de visite on eBay by a photographer in my ancestors' village. Love a good eBay find. A family history related eBay find is really cool, especially photographer in your village as well. Something really interesting as well. Love to hear more about that, Janet, as well. So that is, as a using eBay in family history research is one of my favorite things. I've not had a chance to do it myself, not found anything of note with a personal connection, but that having your ancestors' village, a photographer from there, is cool. And as I say, eBay alongside family history, it's a dangerous game to play for me. I know I'm going to get sidetracked on eBay itself, end up spending all sorts of money on other things. But I'm not the first person to mention that. And as I say, I always really like that when people are doing that too. So really cool to hear people are using all sorts of avenues. We talk about record sets, we talk about all sorts, but eBay it's a bit of a new one, something a little bit different, as we say. So very cool. We'll have another look in the comments and see what's going on. We've still got more question of the week answers to come back to as well. So there are still time to get your answers in, and we will hopefully have time later in the session to be answering back on them as well. What have we missed? Back to the Spice Girls. We're not getting away from the Spice Girls just yet. And you're saying that the Spice Girls stamps are out just now. So I've not actually seen the Spice Girls stamps. That is quite interesting. Might have a look for some myself. That is something you can imagine fetching a few bob on eBay in time to come as well. I know they've had a bit of a resurgence recently. There was a David Beckham documentary on Netflix that Victoria obviously featured quite heavily in. So I think they've had a bit of a sort of pop culture resurgence, the Spice Girls having a bit of a moment. So Spice Girls stamps is definitely something a bit different. Maybe in years to come, James will be doing his eBay family history, trying to find an Emma Bunton Spice Girls stamp. But as a nice one, if that is your thing, head to the post office, see if they've got some Spice Girls stamps for you. What else have we got in the comments? We've got another shout out for the customer support team. As I say, quite biased, but our customer support team are definitely the best in the business. Some would say they've even got better since I left the team, but someone else's words, not mine. But Kathleen would like to thank Sophie for helping me remove duplicate lines and other issues. Greetings from Dublin. Again, love to hear that as well, Kathleen. They're there for all sorts of customer support team, whether they are helping people find things in newspapers, helping get that sort of admin work done on the family tree. So very glad to hear that Sophie was of help for your family tree issues as well, Kathleen. Absolutely love to hear. As I say, best in the business. And that's not words. Someone else did say that. I think it was still biased. I think it was Jen that said that, but still, I always remember Jen saying that the best in the biz, she always used to say about the customer support team, and who am I to disagree? Let's have a look. Ellie has also been going down the rabbit holes as well. I know I've had a few messages from Ellie this afternoon, so I can only imagine what Jen has been coming across. Ellie came across a cool photo in the newspapers this afternoon, cue me researching everything I can about this woman and falling down the rabbit hole. I kept sending things I found to Jen. It's just so easy, especially when me and Ellie spent a bit of time this afternoon having a look for particular images in newspapers. So like you say, when you do find the image, something else catches your eye. I know Ellie sent me one earlier that she was looking for one image, but another image on the page was about two women who had played football together years ago and they had been reunited with a trophy. So Ellie sent me that one across. Obviously, I was very interested. So the rabbit holes are good, especially when you're winding down on a Friday afternoon. it's nice sometimes to go down the rabbit hole, and especially like you say, when you go from a newspaper to the actual family history research, the BMDs, etc., about that person, it's a good one as well. So we all love a rabbit hole here on Fridays Live, don't we? Absolutely. Let's have a look. What else have we got? Again, not getting away from the Spice Girls just yet. Karen saying that the song was used in the recent Doctor Who. I've not actually watched any of the recent Doctor Who, I will admit. I don't think I've watched Doctor Who probably since David Tennant, I think, was the last Doctor Who I watched. I don't think I watched any when it was Matt Smith. So yeah, I think David Tennant would have been the last Doctor Who that I watched. Yeah, don't think I watched any since then. It was, yeah, Matt Smith was after David Tennant, but didn't watch any of that one onwards. But used to love Doctor Who. The Chris Eccleston ones, the David Tennant ones, all really good. So maybe get back into it now. I've heard the new season is quite good, so I'll maybe have a look, especially now that I know the Spice Girls song has been used in it as well. Maybe that is motivation to get back into it. Sometimes the platform that we use for going live, it doesn't always show comments in threads. So sometimes a comment that's a reply to another one just appears on its own. So Rita's comment has just appeared in isolation, out of context, saying, I wish we had them in the US. So I'm only imagining that Rita is referring to the Spice Girls in this comment. As I say, it's out of context on my feed. So I can only imagine that that is relating to the Spice Girls. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Rita, but as I say, that's certainly the context that I'm applying to it as well. Sorry, Daphne. Normal service will resume. We'll get back into the football for you soon. Maybe the Spice Girls is too niche. I do apologise. I say, but we'll get off. I'm really just time filling. The special guest should be here any minute now. So the Spice Girls chat will end. I will brief our guest not to mention the Spice Girls. So I do apologise, Daphne. We'll get back into the nitty gritty of it any minute now when the special guest joins, and we can have a look at the website and the cool new features. But noted, avoid Spice Girls and avoid football. They are two topics. I try my best with the football now, I will say, not to get too involved in the football chat. So as I say, I will add Spice Girls to the banned list as well. And I'm not sure about how you feel about Doctor Who, Daphne, or the rest of them, but a lot of Doctor Who chat in the comments as well. I know when Jen was doing her one and I was in the comments, what did we start talking about? It was Robin Hood that we started talking about. And I know we made the joke then that you take your eyes off the chat for 2 minutes. Maybe you are too busy presenting, you've got your slides on the screen so you can't see the chat, and you come back to it and all you're seeing is Robin Hood or Dr. Tennant in the Spice Girls in this case. So as I say, Findmypast Fridays Live, you come for the family history and you stay for Robin Hood, for Doctor Who, for the Spice Girls, whatever it might be. So yeah, as I say, totally random sometimes, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's just getting involved, having a chat on Friday afternoon and winding down. And Jeff making a good point. This is not the new feature, so this isn't a spoiler, but Jeff is asking, have maps been added to the full profiles? And Ellie has confirmed that yes, they have. It is a work in progress. I did see, I've not had a chance to play around properly myself just yet, but when you remember Adrian and Chris, I think, were on, or maybe just Adrian, talking about the profile timeline and all the really cool stuff that they've done to that, you may start seeing maps included in there as well. So definitely over the weekend when you're doing your tree, have a look at that timeline, have a look, see if you've got the maps in there and how they're looking in there as well. As Ellie says, let us know any thoughts, any feedback, how you're enjoying that, anything you think we can improve. As Ellie says, it is a work in progress. It's a relatively new feature. It is looking really cool from what I've seen already, and something that I think I mentioned before about the kind of, sometimes I struggle with the context of my ancestors. So having that map, visualizing where they are in the country, where they are in a particular town, whatever it might be, is a nice little feature to have. So yeah, definitely have a look at your profiles on your family tree and keep an eye out for maps and see if you have them. And yeah, any thoughts, any feedback that you might have for us as well. Jeff has got the maps. Yeah, good stuff. As Ellie says, let us know your thoughts, let us know your feedback. And yeah, have a look, have a play around. And we will see as they always evolve. And I know Adrian and the team are hard at work. I'm sure they will be back on soon enough as well, talking about more of the cool work that they have done. So yeah, definitely have a play around. And then when Adrian is next on, you can all have your feedback ready for him as well. But as I said, send it in to us, whether you want to send it on social, getting in touch with the customer support team, whatever it might be. Hey, definitely get in touch with any feedback that you have, whether it's maps, whether it's any new feature, anything you'd even like to see on the website that the team might not yet be working on. Definitely let us know. Good stuff. So we do have the special guest there. If I can just get a quick thumbs up, making sure I'm not putting him on the spot, and he is ready to go. Good stuff. We have got the all clear. So the Spice Girls chat will come to an end. You'll be glad to know, Daphne. We'd like to introduce our special guest. You've seen him before, but he is back again. And we have Martin on.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you all loud and clear. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I can hear you. I hope everyone else can as well. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Martin. You may, if you've dialed in before, you may have seen me in one of these presentations before. I think I last spoke to you along with my colleague Chris when we did a newspapers kind of relaunch back in October. But I'm back, and hopefully on as part of a more regular basis. One of the things that as a product manager at Findmypast and as part of the wider product team, we are keen to talk to you guys more, hear your voice, and put names to faces, and hear and get some feedback from you on things we're working on a slightly more casual level than we have in the past. In the past, we've tended to come to you when we've got big product releases, and actually, those of you who use the site a lot, which I imagine is most of you, have noticed that we kind of doing more and more. You're seeing more change, probably seeing more change to the site, more product launching, more. You'd have noticed things like the profile changing in the tree and lots of other stuff happening. And we want to talk to you more about that stuff. One, not just because we're doing more, but also to explain why, to an extent, some of the decisions we make, and give you a chance to feed into that and ask questions and everything else. So today is the first of what we're planning to be kind of a monthly slot in these Fridays Lives, where we can talk to you more about stuff which was going on, which is slightly more away from the big product releases. So to completely buck that trend in the first week, I'm going to talk to you about 2 new things we're launching today. And then obviously you can ask questions today. And what I'd also like to do, working with Liam and Ellie, is probably maybe follow up in the Facebook Findmypast forum or something along those lines, where we can where you can drop questions after today if you have them, and I or one of my colleagues can respond directly to those where appropriate, where we can, so that we can start having that a bit more of a dialogue in a more casual form. But anyway, I'm not going to present a big presentation or anything today. The temptation is to go down a horrible corporate route where I suddenly put a PowerPoint, and I actually made one, but I'm just going to read from it. I'm not going to show it. I'm going to talk to you about 2 things today, which are kind of targeting a couple of questions that myself and my colleagues within the kind of the newspapers, records, and search kind of teams have been asking ourselves, and kind of really helping to answer some of the questions about how we turn things like the family history work you're working, all of the newspaper research you're doing, which helps to kind of tell some of those more captivating stories, adds color and nuance to the data that you're uncovering through records and things like that. And how can we use our newspapers and other data and records in ways which help you unblock walls, make it easier to tell stories, right? Because I know that those of us, I'm a family historian as well, those of us who do this kind of thing for fun, not everyone shares the same passion as we do. But the things that we're finding out and the things that we're learning are things that we really want to share. So how do we do that in ways? How do we make it more interesting for people who don't get it? So we've been exploring some of those questions, and a couple of developments I wanted to talk to you about. So the first one I want to talk to you about today is something called collections. Before I go any further into it, I would like to share my screen. Now, I don't know how to do that in this tool, so I might have to ask Liam to help me. Do I have to put the present button?
You've got present, present. Yeah. And then share screen, and then you should be able to pick a tab or a window.
Okay, share screen, and then, okay, I don't want to share my whole screen. Do I have the option to share just a window?
I think if you go share screen, have you got Chrome tab on the left-hand side? Along the top on the left?
I do. I don't know. Let's have a look. If I hit share screen, let's see what happens. Select window or screen. Okay, here we go. bear with me, people. I'm a product manager. I work in tech, and I don't know how to share my screen. I've got multiple things here. I think this is probably the one I want to share. It is. Now, where has that window gone?
Yeah, I'll pop
This
that
one.
on
Do you
screen
see
for
a
us.
picture of a collections page? There we go. I can see it on screen. How fabulous. So those of you who have used the site today may have seen this already. But even if you've seen it today, you may not have seen this today. So this is a product that we've literally launched today. And only to 100% of our users in the last hour or so. So it's just hot off the press. As I say, hopefully it will be interesting. So this is a product that we've launched. This is a beta product, so it's not finished yet. It's not the full functionality that we're going to be launching, but it's something that we wanted to put out to people as quickly as we can. It's called Collections, and it's, in the simplest terms, a way of organizing and storing and saving newspaper clippings. So you're probably aware, if you've used our newspaper tool, that when you find an article you like, you can add it to a tree in Findmypast if you choose to. And you can download it and you can print it and things like that. But we've not offered up until now a way of just saving it separate to your family tree, which is quite useful if your newspaper research is not related to your family tree or family research, because we understand, a large number of our users don't do purely family history with us. They use our newspapers and other records for other kinds of research. And so this is a tool which both supports our family tree and family history research, but also allows you to do some other things and discover other ways of using our newspapers. So as I say, in the simplest term, it's a filing system. You can save and add clippings to various different themed collections. What you can see on your screen here is the initial version of the My Collections page. So you can create 1, 2, or a series of collections on any theme that you want. The way that it works, and I'll show you through it in a second. The way that it works essentially is this: you can make any clipping on our newspaper search. Any clipping that you've ever made, now or in the past, lives in your all clippings file, which lives here. If you clip into it, oh, it failed. Look at that! The perils of a live demo. There we go. All your clippings you've ever made live in here, whether they're in a collection or not. So you can go through and you can see I've made a bunch of clippings. And any future clipping, you can also obviously go and make clippings. So if you were to go into the newspapers and go to, you will see that newspapers now lives in our top navigation if you search for a newspaper. And I'll just quickly do a quick search for, let's look at Freddie Mercury. He's the first person I could think of. We just run a search for that and just look at the first article here. Anyone who's used our newspaper tool will be familiar with the fact that we have this clipping tool. Just wait for it to load. There we go. Make a clipping. That's a sad article. It's the one where he died. How morbid. We make a clipping. And now, when you make that clipping, you can add your tree as you always could, but you'll see this add to collection option here. If we click that, you can choose to add to an existing collection that you may have already made, or you can choose to make a new one. And you can add a little description in here. And you click create. Yeah, that probably helps. And then if I see you see it in here, it's now added to this. You can add the clipping to multiple collections if you choose to. In this case, I'm just going to do one. You see the clipping has a name. You can change it. You can add some notes. And if you save, now it's saved there. If we go click here, now you'll see there's a nice new clipping collection. I can click into there, and my clipping is there. So we think this is a pretty decent and interesting way to start exploring things both within your family history hobby and just other stuff. Like, I don't know how you guys feel, but I've gone down a few rabbit holes playing with this over the last couple of weeks as we've been preparing to launch it, because I love collecting stuff out of newspapers. It's fun. You can see some of the things I've been doing when I'm testing things about music, things about crazy things which have happened. I did a lifetime life story of Nigel Mansell, the Formula One driver, like all kinds of crazy rabbit holes. It's quite a fun thing to play with. And I strongly encourage you all to go and do so. And obviously then also feedback to us. We have plans, wider plans for this product. A lot more things will be coming to allow you to share and curate these collections a little bit more than you can today, and allow you potentially to publish them and all kinds of other fun things. And over the next few couple of months, you will see this product develop quite quickly. But we wanted to get this out in front of people now so that we can start seeing and understanding how you use it and all that fun stuff. So that's number one. Collections. So you, as I say, you can add as many collections as you want. There's no limit to the number of collections. The only limit will be whatever access to newspapers that you currently have under your subscription. So if you pay for our top level and you have full access to the newspapers, you can search our entire newspaper archive. If you are on one of our basic plans and you only have access to our free newspapers, they're obviously the only newspapers you're going to be able to search. But you can still make collections within the way we're currently set up. And, you know, have at it. We look forward to seeing how you use it and how what your feedback would be and stuff like that. So that's number one. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about. So I am going to change tabs. I'm not going to change tabs just yet. So those of you who are eagle-eyed, and this might be quite a lot of you, will have seen on. So I'm going to use this tab over here for now. If you were to go to our search menu and search records, you will see, you scroll down to the bottom of this first column, a section here called newspapers and publications. There's always been a newspapers and publications section here, but actually, those of you who, as I say, who are eagle-eyed will have noticed that there's a few changes happened here. I'm going to click on search all records. Oh, it doesn't work. We'll have a look at it in the actual live site instead. I'm on an internal site right now. Let's just go to Findmypast. 2 seconds. I'm on annual leave today, so I haven't been at work. So you can tell I had very little preparation time before I jumped. Looking after
we appreciate you taking the time out.
Let's go and have a look on the live site instead. So search. If you go to search all records, for now, let's see how this goes. So in newspapers and publications, we now have 3 new sections. So we, within the newspapers group at Findmypast, have been working diligently behind the scenes to do something which, I think, in technical terms, is called structured data extraction. But what it actually means is that we have scoured and are in the process of continuing to scour our newspaper archive for birth notices, death in memoriam notices, and marriage notices, and then extracting that data and turning those into record and fact types that you can add to your family tree, which has been a massive technical undertaking. But we think is quite transformative in the way that it might help people make progress within their family history hobby specifically, and help to unblock certain walls that may have been difficult to uncover through our regular record set, but also to add nuance and color to what otherwise can be fairly dry BMD record data. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of kind of what some of the things that we found actually have been quite surprisingly interesting having uncovered this. And we'll talk about how it works and everything in a minute, but essentially you can find these through our normal search mechanism. You just select either newspapers and publications or one of the subcategories here, and you can then search. If we have a look, you search into the standard search forms. So I'll just show you an example. Please use my maternal surname. We just search. I haven't got many in here because our full newspaper set isn't here yet. But if we search for Elmore, and you can see in here, we've got some birth, in this case, birth notices. If we click into this, you can see, oh, everything's breaking on me today, people. This is not very nice, is it? Let's try again. There we go. A transcript of the newspaper article. So you can see in here, it got a last name of Elmore, birth year 1869, in Chichester in Sussex, which fortunately is where my maternal family line is from. And the father was called Samuel Elmore, so on and so forth, lots of data. And then we can actually click in and we can actually view the article. And you'll see here under births, on the second instance at South Street, Chichester, the wife of Mr. Samuel Elmore of a son. So we've taken this data, extracted it out, turned it into a transcript, and now you can add this as what we call a newspaper birth fact into your a person within your tree. or a person you might want to add into your tree, which is a pretty big, interesting step forward. But what I wanted to actually show you was an example of where this adds some really interesting color to, and some really interesting nuance to the way that it can impact how you do family history. So I'm going to give you an example. This is not someone in my family. This is someone that we've been looking at separately. So those of you who may have met Adrian Plumpton, one of our product managers here, Alf Plumpton is, as far as I'm aware, no relation to him, but we have discovered a man called Alf Plumpton. Now, this is Alf Plumpton's tree. So he lived from 1880 until 1931. He lived in Sunderland. I think a place called Monk Wearmouth was the actual name of the area he lived in. And he had a family, and Alf Plumpton was a wholesale grocer. He imported vegetables and things like that. So it is kind of coincidental that one of my colleague Chris Brake, who you've probably met before, was looking at this guy. And anyway, so we, as part of the prep for this, so we discovered a bunch of interesting things about him. So if we go back to our clippings, this is quite a nice segue. I put together a collection about Alf Plumpton for today. So if we look at our Alf Plumpton collection here, because this is where I collected a bunch of stuff about him. So if we look in here, you see the first reference to Alf Plumpton is in 1922, and it's an advertisement from the newspaper, Sunderland Daily Echo, showing some of his latest consignment and vegetables coming in and how you can contact him and everything else. And obviously, Alf Plumpton was a successful grocer, a wholesale grocer within his local area. And again, another thing here for potatoes coming in on a boat from the SS Tynehome, and obviously you apply to him for prices and so on and so forth. And then we discovered here it's a marriage record. So this start to extract these marriage records out from the structured data extraction I was just talking to you about. And we found this marriage record it's for Alf Plumpton's son. So between Sarah Harrison, who's the daughter of the local fire chief, and was married to Alfred Plumpton, eldest son of Mr. and Mrs. Alfred Plumpton. His son was also called Alfred. We can confuse matters, but for the purpose of this, that's the case. So it gives you loads of really interesting detail about this guy's wedding. So again, if this is someone in your family, suddenly you can see that your great-grandmother, what she got married in, who was there. You can start to reference like the other people who were guests at this wedding and other family members against the people in your tree. It starts to reinforce some of that kind of confidence that you have that you've got the right people in your research. And yeah, so James Plumpton, the bridegroom's brother, was there. It talks to you about where they're going on your honeymoon. So it starts to colour in these people's lives over and above just the marriage facts. But then it gets really interesting. So that was the 16th of September, the marriage of his son on 1931. And then in December, Alf Plumpton died. Unexpectedly, I think at the age of 57. And it reached the local newspapers. So well-known Royside fruiterer, he died and he was 52. There we go, 52nd year, and only had a brief illness. So obviously something went badly wrong in his life. And it was a period of mourning, right? Like there's a popular guy, well-known, upstanding pillar of community, leaves behind a widow, 4 sons and 2 daughters, which is a shocking and upsetting piece of news. And again, this is more evidence over and above death records and death certificates and things that support what happened. Then we see there, I'm not going to click into this one, but there's a £1 donation to the Royal Infirmary in his memory in lieu of a wreath. And then we start to see in the February of the next year, the probate and the legal process of the distribution of his estate starts to happen. And then where this, we've got another fail. This is why because I'm not using the live website, I'm using an internal version of the website. It's a little bit flakier than normal. But then what we start to see, and this is what you wouldn't have normally discovered without this family notice extraction, is in 1932, on the 8th of December 1932, we get some in memoriams. So this is post Alf's death. Right? This is now beyond where we start, where we normally when we normally stop someone's life story when we come to our family tree stuff. But this is really starts to colour in how Alfred Plumpton was understood and was remembered and was loved, frankly. So 1 year after his death, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in memoriams in the local newspaper. We have ones from Lewis and Billy. Now, Billy worked for Alf Plumpton. We have his sister Margaret. We have his brother George. We had his wife Martha and Norman and Frank, his children, so on and so forth. Lots and lots of in memoriams. And it's understandable after 1 year. And then in 1934, we get more. This time from his brothers and sisters and brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law. And then in 1935, we get more. Again from his brothers and sisters. Now, this suddenly starts to tell a picture of Alf Plumpton. Alf Plumpton was a man who was loved and is remembered and had a huge impact on people's lives. And this goes on. 1936. This is 5 years after his birth. So we see a little spike at this point because it's a milestone anniversary. And again, we get from his wife and his children and his children-in-law and his daughter-in-law. And again, you'll see Billy. Billy was his clerk. And 5 years later, Billy is still remembering Alf, which is really quite an achievement, right? Like, not many people 5 years after their boss dies are still paying to have newspaper articles dropped in it. And again, it goes on 1936. Poor old Billy is still leaving in memoriams in the newspaper, as well as his family. And again, finally, in 1939, so 8 years after Alf died, we're still getting these in memoriams. Now, this is fascinating, both from a sociological standpoint, understanding how people memorialize people's lives post-mortem at various different times in their lives, but also uncovers color and, as I say, color and nuance around an individual's life that you could never have got from just a death record, or without actually having verbatim comments about how this person lived their life, which we thought was absolutely fascinating. And we're having to think about actually how we handle this within the family tree, because we're not really set up for post-mortem record adding at the moment, as most family trees aren't. But we feel like we should be, because there's loads of really interesting stuff here. I will stop for some questions in a minute, but I'm going to go into one more thing as well, because there's another interesting thing that we discovered. Also from these records as well, by the way, was also interesting before I move on, is it also allowed us to find, from the funeral reference, we found out, where he lived. Separate census records, because it talks about where the funeral procession was leaving from. So we could find out where Alf's house was and take a screen cap and then add it to the family tree and start to, again, colour in the life of Alf Plumpton. He had a beautiful house in Sunderland. So the other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly, from which we uncovered from these family records, is there's a very interesting intersection where often our records don't cover, or are more weak on coverage, which is, and we weren't expecting to find this, which was, in this case, the Aberdeen Weekly Journal. So this is a marriage announcement for the Reed Moore. So Dr. Henderson, who married James Reed, son of late Alex and Reed, who were farmers, and I'm not Scottish, so I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of this village. I'm not even going to Niskeen, to Elizabeth Moore of Vancouver. Now, this is a pretty standard wedding notice, except for one fact: it was in Canada. And so we've seen a lot, as we've started extracting this data, of announcements, whether marriage in this case, or birth or death, for things which have not happened locally but have a local connection. Which, for those of us who have family in our histories, ancestors who have immigrated or emigrated, and the record coverage becomes a little more spotty, this can really, really unlock some doors about what actually happened and who did they end up with and what did they do with their lives, which again we weren't particularly expecting when we started the project to extract this data. And your mileage may vary, but this has certainly helped me on a couple of mine, as I started exploring some of the areas in which I don't know what happened, and I've run out of records and I've run out of things to explore, and there's actually, can I find things through this? So that's a second, slightly smaller point, but really, really interesting. So, as I say, this is now also, this family record extraction is also now live and available on site. Now, what is not, we aren't complete on it yet. So if we go through here. So this is what the transcript looks like from that specific record. So you can see here that the marriage place was in Vancouver, but the publication was the Aberdeen Weekly Journal. So we're extracting a lot of data from a very small amount of text, which you can then add directly into your family tree or export whatever you want to do with it. So so currently we have just under 14 million names extracted from family notice records. It sounds like a lot, right? It is a lot. But it's nowhere near as much as what will be, where we will be in the hundreds of millions within the next few months. So if you search for this today and you don't have any luck, don't give up. This is a work in progress. We've put it live, and this is the first time we've really spoken about it. It's been up and running for a couple of months, but it's the first time we really felt like we have enough volume to really start talking about this. And the other reason we also want to talk about it is if you use the Findmypast tree hinting, we're also now generating hints on these records. We weren't up until this week. So you will only see hints on this if you update someone in your tree. If you update from a record or update some data, then we'll rerun the hint algorithm for that specific person. And then if there's a record which matches from these family notice records, we will return that as a hint to the person in your tree. And again, you will see that more as you start working through people in your tree and we start refreshing and searching for hints in the space. But all in all, we think a couple of really exciting kind of product developments. The records, huge new set of data, increasingly huge new set of data for you to hopefully unblock yourself and learn some new stuff about the people in your history. And then collections, which opens both a whole new research direction, should you choose to take it, but also allows you to start collecting and collating data for people in your family or wherever else, even if you don't necessarily have those people in your tree yet. That's me done. Does anyone have any questions or comments? If you don't, it's fine. I haven't been looking at the comments while I've been yapping at you. So, yeah.
That's all right. I've noticed a few coming in, so I've bookmarked a few for us to come back to. But yeah, just want to say before we go into the comments that personally, thank you very much indeed for that. I think the features themselves are absolutely incredible. Things that we've obviously been hearing whispers about internally for a while. So to see them get to this stage is really cool. And obviously, thank you very much for being here and giving us such a great rundown of that, especially on annual leave as well. That is real dedication to the cause, Martin. So we appreciate that aspect.
New products today. I'm happy with that. Once I've got a 5-year-old, it's exhausting. Like, this is a break for me.
Yeah, maybe depending on what you're doing with your annual leave, might be, like you say, quite a welcome break. But yeah, as I say, thank you very much indeed. I know a lot of people in the chat are feeling the same as well. I've got a few bookmarked as well. Robin saying that it looks great. I really like this one from Daphne as well. A Holden Bay for future reference. I think that was a really good way of putting it as well. And this was my favorite comment, I think, Linda saying that it's quite unfair, quite rude of you actually, Martin, because she's just started a part-time job, so now has less time to go down the rabbit holes that this project is going to open up. So those family notices, those clipping folders are eaten into Linda's quite sparse spare time now. So as I say, but yeah, I know a lot of people in the chat are very big fans. We do have some comments as
yeah,
well.
I'm just going through some of them now. I see one from Chris Lang about wanting to save a whole page. You can do that. There's no limit on the clipping itself. You can clip the whole page if you choose to, if that's what you prefer. We don't make you clip the exact article if you want to clip the whole page. Like, that's perfectly feasible and possible within the collections world.
So yes, so that was one. Perfect. As I say, I thought that myself when Chris asked that. Oh, sorry. My internet just went a bit funny there. I started speaking and then realized that things were still going on. My internet just totally jammed up. Do apologize. Like I say, live demos, couldn't live without them. So yeah, as I say, that was one. Karen asked as well, can you only save a clipping to a collection?
So you can do a number of things with clippings. So should you take a clipping of a page or an article, you can do the following. You can save it. You can save that clipping to a person in your family tree or multiple people in your family tree, and it will add that to their timeline in their profile. You can download the clipping as a PNG. You can print it. You can add it to a collection. What else can you do with it? I feel like there's something else I've forgotten. So there's a number of things. We don't force you to do one thing or the other. Collections is just one new outlet for it, especially for those people who aren't necessarily using newspapers for a family history hobby. Maybe you're doing something else, whether it's academic research or whether you're doing, I don't know, the history of supersonic flight, and you're doing research around that, or any number of things. It's an open book. So yeah, have at it on that. But yeah, you can always download, you can always print, you can share to social channels, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest, and it will create a standalone clipping page for that with all the publication date and the page it exists on and all of that stuff. And those pages can be viewed completely free of registration. So if you share that, anyone who wants to view it doesn't even need to register with Findmypast to view that page. That's one thing actually worth covering off, actually. To make a collection, obviously you need to be a registered user of Findmypast. But to share a clipping, anyone who views that shared clipping does not need to be. We're not going to make people sign in to view that stuff. But yeah, so there's a slight nuance there. But that's it on that. Yes, I'm looking at Kim's comment on the same subject about forgetting to do date of publication and things. Making clippings on FMP now. As soon as you make a clipping, it will be saved in your all clippings file. It will always have the publication name. It will always have the publication date and the page and the location. So you don't have to worry about that because we'll do it all for you.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more in a way running out of time. Gina asking, can a clipping be saved to more than one folder?
It can. You can save it to any number of clippings. Any clipping can be saved to any number of collections. You can save it just to one to start with, and then you can come back and edit it and add more collections later. You can add it all at once if you want to. We haven't limited to that because obviously you may have a clipping which might involve multiple families or multiple different subjects.
Absolutely. And last one, Christine asking, can you drag and drop from other sources into collections, or would it just be the newspapers?
So for now, just newspapers. We are looking at and we are interested in what other either media types or record types might be useful or applicable for this product in the future. Part of what the direction we go in that will really depend on how we see people using it and what feedback we get and everything else, because the potential here is huge to do all kinds of different things. So we need to kind of understand a bit more about what people want to do. Newspapers was a starting point because newspapers isn't interesting and has a really logical use case for us. But there are obviously other things that we could do. For me, there's a couple of things like images, photography, maps, and then secondly, records, like record transcript, or not transcripts, but the record images themselves. And how might you tell a story about that, and what might we need to do to help people tell stories using a collection? And is that what people want to do, or is it more of an organizational file system for people? And at the moment, we'll rely on feedback from users like you guys to help us.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like we said earlier about the feedback, obviously let us know. We're on social. We've got the customer support team as well. Both teams always pass things on to Martin and the appropriate teams as well. So yeah, definitely let us know if you do have any comments, any issues, anything at all. Always get in touch. And as I say, we will be sure to pass that on to the people that need to know. And I know Martin and the team in particular are always really good at taking that feedback on and making those improvements. And like I say, taking the time out of your day to come here and show the lovely people in the Friday Live community about the cool work that you're doing as well. I did just want to highlight one last comment before I let you go as well. Anya said that she loved all the music-related clippings.
I'm glad someone recognised the obscure indie pop band file names that I'd set up.
When you first put the screen on, I saw If You're Feeling Sinister, and I was like, this is either going to be some really dark news that Martin's been researching, or it's a Belle and Sebastian reference.
Yeah, I've got a penchant for Glaswegian indie pop, I'm afraid.
A man after my own heart. You missed it earlier, but we were talking about the Spice Girls earlier, so I'm glad we've gone a little bit more highbrow with the Glasgow indie pop of the 80s and 90s. I'm sure Anya is a big fan of that kind of stuff as well. So finishing on a bit more of a, as I say, highbrow note, shall we say, than where we started.
As I say, just finally, just before I go, I will see if we can get a comment thread going in the Findmypast community on Facebook, so that we can continue any questions or anything you might have, or just feedback in there over the next day or so.
Yeah, absolutely. If Ellie would be so kind, maybe to pop a quick link to the forum in the chat as well for anyone who isn't already a member, because yeah, like I say, Martin and the team are good at paying attention to those comments, passing that on, and making these appearances as well to pass on.
And we really do listen. Like, we really do want to hear your voices, and it sometimes might feel like you're yelling into the ether when you either have positive or negative stuff to say, but we are listening, and we do pick it up, and we want to do better at that and make it clear that we are responding.
Absolutely. I think that is the perfect note to finish on, because I did notice this comment earlier as well from Jenny saying, so nice to see a company that cares about their customer experiences. And I just say, Martin, we are listening. Whether it's social and customer support passing it on, or people like Martin jumping into the forum, jumping onto the Facebook Lives, we, as Martin says, we do care, we do listen, and we do take that on board as well. So definitely let us know your thoughts, and I'm sure everyone will be getting stuck in over the weekend and building up collections. Looking forward to seeing what everyone's collections are this time next week. But yeah, we will 6 minutes past 5 let you go and enjoy the rest of your annual leave. Martin, again, thank you very much indeed for taking the time out to show us that really cool stuff today. And I will end things there and say goodbye. But yeah, thank you very much indeed for everyone again for joining us today. I'm sure I will speak to you this time next week, but have a good weekend. Enjoy getting stuck into the collection, stuck into the birth, marriage, and death notices. And yeah, have a good one.